Every episode of Star Trek was the result of the efforts of hundreds of enormously talented people. The actors, in fact, were among the last to add their contributions. So, well before Bill and Leonard and Dee, Jimmy, George, Nichelle, Walter, and the others arrived on the set, everything had been prepared for another episode of Star Trek.
The three people that I recall, Roddenberry, Solo, and Justman, the one I was most intimate with was Justman. He made such enormous contributions to Star Trek that will never really be fully realized by the layperson, maybe even the people who made Star Trek. But for me, he was tremendously important in the development and the final realization of the value of Star Trek. I think he was intimately concerned with it.
Now, what happened on that is Dolinsky wrote it for the Vulcan to kiss Nichelle. And I said, no, Mike, I don't want that. I want it to be Shatner. Because if that comes out, that it's the Vulcan, they say, we didn't have guts enough to have a white man kiss this black girl. And we'll make a point anyway that way. And Dolinsky fought against it, you know, as a writer, he wondered what it was. I said, no way, we're going to do this, and that's what it's going to be. Now, when program practice called up about a white man kissing a girl, I talked to him, I felt I won that battle. So that's the way the script was written and went down. And we had quite a fight.
One of the reasons that Star Trek, the pilot, Where No Man Has Gone Before, was so successful was the design of the costumes by Bill Theiss. It was and it's sort of amusing in retrospect, there was this new material that was soft and fuzzy. What is it called? Not Velcro. Velcro is what we stuck the guns on. Velour. And velour does not wrinkle and doesn't get shadows. We didn't have time to change if our wardrobe changes, and we didn't want shadows. There are no shadows in outer space. And so Bill, I think, came up with the idea of making the costumes out of velour.
The later you go in the season, the more shows you have under your belt, the less time there is for post-production. And the more dangerous it gets with respect to meeting your air date schedule. And I reached the point during the summer of 1966 when I went home one night and composed a letter to an NBC executive in which I told him that they were expecting the impossible from us and that there was no way we were going to meet our air dates. And I made the mistake, or maybe I had the good fortune, to mention that I wanted to send this letter to the executive, and I told Herb Solow. And Herb told me, under no circumstances will you send that letter. What they don't know won't hurt them, and don't worry about it, we'll make it. And sure enough, we did.
Devil in the Dark episode was one of the most interesting in that it had a major scientific problem. The problem was that this giant worm that ate rock was the featured menace of this episode. The idea was that he lived in a different kind of environment that would support life that was not carbon-based. Therefore, the question was, what other chemical could support life other than carbon? And I do not recall what the original draft of the script had, but it wasn't right. So we checked. This wasn't a call to NASA, but I think we called Caltech. We checked through books and determined that silicon, in theory, could support a life system. So, and this fit very well into this rock-dwelling creature. So the planet, the creature and the planet became a silicon-based creature and planet.
Making films should be fun, and there was a lot of fun during that chaotic 8 days or so of shooting the pilot, Sally Kellerman, with whom I had never worked before, I'd known her, but not worked with her, and Gary Lockwood, with whom I had worked on The Lieutenant, had to wear silver contact lenses. And those are the early days of contact lenses, not the soft ones that some people wear now. And they had to go to ophthalmologist or an optometrist and have these opaque, or non-opaque, I guess, contact lenses made. And we would rehearse a scene, physically block a scene, and they would have the contact lenses out, and then they would put them in. And Gary, as I recall, Sally was tough, and Gary wasn't tough, and it hurt Gary's eyes, not Sally's. They would have to remember exactly how many steps it was in the blocking to get to a certain place where they would stop, because they couldn't see a thing with these things in their eyes. And then the nest of bees at the top of the soundstage where we were shooting broke loose one day. I guess it got too hot up there, and so not only was the cast and crew running around swatting at flies, hopefully not in front of the camera too often, but we had two blind actors who were attempting to avoid the things that were buzzing around their ears.
And that was one of the ongoing theses I had with Gene Roddenberry. We have to make these people human. The cast of characters must constantly be human, recognizable as people of today, not as of tomorrow. The things that you will give them to say and the things that you will give them to do will make them special.